Okay, members, up next is Senate Bill 1273. Will the staff please introduce the bill?
Mr. Chair, members, Senate Bill 1273 allows the operator of a two-wheeled motorcycle to pass another vehicle in the same lane that is stopped in the same direction if the operator operates the motorcycle on a street that is divided into at least two adjacent traffic lanes in the same direction of travel and has a speed limit that does not exceed 45 miles per hour. Further, if it's traveling at a speed that does not exceed 15 miles per hour and first ascertains that the action can be made safely. With that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Members, any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'm the sponsor of this bill, and I won't go into too much description of that, but I am a licensed motorcycle rider. I have to clarify that myself. And this bill was brought to me. This is not the first time we've heard many variations of this. This matches the Utah style of lane filtering. It's different from the California style of lane splitting. The purpose of this bill is to provide opportunities for safe exits and safe passage for our two-wheeled friends who are sharing the roadways with us. Not only do I ride a motorcycle, sometimes I drive a big Jeep, and as when you drive a big car driving down the road and somebody with a motorcycle may be sitting in your blind spot, or you may be sitting in different places, it can be dangerous. And one of the most dangerous places is sitting at an intersection or at a stop. When you're sitting there and someone comes from behind you and plows into you because there's no way to escape. The purpose of this bill is to add an opportunity for those riders to move forward and get their butts out of the way, so that they're not getting rear-ended by people coming in and plowing through them. Been rear-ended, stopped at a stoplight several times in my life. If I was on my motorcycle, I would not be the pleasant person sitting here today. Things would be different for me. I know we have a couple people signed in to speak for and against this bill. If we could have first up, Mr. Michael Infanson. And please state your name for the record and keep your comments as brief and to the bill topic as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Michael Infanson. I am the Legislative Director for ABATE of Arizona. I am also I'm not here representing the City of Phoenix, but I am on the Citizens Transportation Commission for the City of Phoenix as well. Been looking at transportation issues and trying to mitigate motorcycle fatalities for a better part of 10 years now. Just a little bit of data. UC Berkeley study in 2014 said lane splitting motorcycles, but this is the statistic for lane filtering, were less likely to be rear-ended by another vehicle than they were other motorcycles. Almost in half, 2.7% to 4.6%. This bill is not California, it's Utah. And Utah statistics, and we waited a couple years to make sure that we had Utah statistics. 2018, they had 47 fatalities by rear-end collisions. 2019, 35 fatalities. Going from 16.3% of the traffic fatalities down to 14%. The rate of motorcyclists and crashes also decreased 28%. The day before Thanksgiving, I drive a big Jeep too. Jeep Grand Cherokee. I was rear-ended by a lady going 45 miles an hour. If I was on my motorcycle, I would not be here right now. This is not, if traffic is moving, filtering does not happen. That's the biggest thing. This is to be able to save lives. I've buried way too many friends over the last 10 years who have been rear-ended at stoplights. And we see it in the news every day, motorcyclist involved fatality. And a lot of times it's either a left-hand turn or getting rear-ended. So, and with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for coming here today. Members, do you have any questions? Okay. Up next to speak, we have John Thomas signed in against representing the Arizona Association of Chiefs and Police. John, welcome back.
Good afternoon, members. Mr. Chair, my name is John Thomas here on behalf, as you have said, the Arizona Association Chiefs of Police. We are here in respectful opposition, as we have in the past, to lane, I call it lane splitting, lane filtering. I want to thank the chair for actually walking through this with me the other day. It's really hard to get sponsors to talk to you sometimes, so I appreciate that. We're going to continue to respectfully oppose. Since you want me to get straight to it, let's go to page 2. Yeah. So our organization, and I believe if you look online, you've also had the Sheriff's Association are weighing in against this as we have in the past. If you head off to page 2, operates a motorcycle on a street that both is divided into 2 adjacent traffic lanes, speed limit not to exceed 45 miles an hour, travels at a speed that does not exceed 15 miles an hour, first ascertains movement can be made safely. Let me run through a couple of scenarios with you. You have 2 lanes of traffic, so you can have a car, a motorcycle, and a car. 2 lanes of traffic on one side of the intersection, 1 lane on the other. So what do you have? You have 3 vehicles trying to get into 1 lane of traffic. Let me come up with another example. You have 3 lanes of traffic going into 2 after an intersection. So theoretically, if this passes, you can have a car, a motorcycle, a car, a motorcycle, and a car. Plus, it can be more than 1 motorcycle. As we have talked before, there's some language issues on this that need to be tightened up a little if this continues to move. But you could have 5 vehicles going for 2 lanes. Now, the reason I'm talking to all of you on this, we believe that it's a danger. We understand the danger from being rear-ended, but we also think this is a danger. This affects all of your constituencies, and you need to think through this as this bill continues to move, which I presume that it will, because you've got your constituencies are going to have the motorcycle pull up next to them. What happens if the motorcycle is 2/3 of the way up to the front and all of a sudden traffic gets to move? They're in violation of the law. Where do they go? What happens if you have 2 motorcycles that are trying to get together to the front of the line and all of a sudden traffic begins to move? Where do they go? They have cars on all sides. So again, reading the language itself, I would argue that there are problems with the language, and more importantly, we just feel that it is not something that should be done in our state. There are specific laws that are laid out for motorcycles. We ask that you would oppose this legislation. How was that for quick? Was that?
That was great. Thank you very much. And you know, Mr. Thomas and I had a great conversation the other day about this very issue and how we can work with it to save lives, but also to make it safer for all vehicles who are driving. Senator Rotondo, you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. You know, I'm glad you pointed out some of the issues that were concerns of mine, and I think some of my colleagues as well, and that was the number of motorcycles. I can tell you, you know, it's just like on the road, we have confident drivers and insecure drivers. And I consider myself a very confident driver, but I can tell you my hair raises up on the back of my head when 4 or 5 motorcycles come racing against, you know, to the left of me in the lane. But my question was this, Mr. Thomas. This was based on the Utah law, as was mentioned earlier. The chief of police work across also state lines. Have you also looked at some of the ramifications of this law in Utah? Has there been an increase of death, or have you come across any information from the change of law in Utah?
Mr. Chair, Senator Rotondo, we've gone up against this legislation probably 2 or 3 times over the last couple of years. It wasn't offered last year. I have not seen the statistics that they've offered, so we'll have to go back and we'll have to take a look at it. It is a danger, having been a motorcycle rider myself at one time. It's a danger from people coming in from the side from just not seeing you. But the belief was, even with that, they also believe that there's a danger in areas where too many people are crowded into lanes and all trying to get to that lane in the very front. So it's a balancing act, and at the end of the day, you're the ones that set the policy. I just want to make sure that you understand that you think through all the impacts if this goes through.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for Mr. Thomas? Okay, members, I did, for those... For members of the committee that I had cell phone numbers with, I did just send you a link to dpsnews.utah.gov. If you get a chance, whether this committee or after, the Department of Public Safety for Utah published a very detailed website about what this looks like. It's from videos on how motorcycles are doing this, public awareness campaigns, what it looked like, why it's safer. They include when the date it goes into effect, how long it's been in effect since then. Very, very detailed. So for those who are at home or those who are interested in learning more, dpsnews.utah.gov, Utah's lane filtering. Very quick Google search, you could find it. Up next to speak on the bill is, let's see here, is Jeremy Cross here? Would you like to, you would like to speak?
Yes.
Oh, yes, please come up. You're signed in, so just state your name for the record and please speak to the bill and as briefly as possible.
All right. Mr. Chairman, committee members, my name is Jeremy Krause. I'm a motorcyclist just outside the city limits of Tucson. I commute across Tucson every day from Oro Valley area down to Davis-Monthan Air Force Base where I work. I've taken the basic rider course, advanced rider course. I wear all of my gear. I'm a very safety conscious driver or safety conscious rider. And I see lots and lots of drivers that are texting and driving or otherwise distracted. And when I come up to a light, one of my biggest concerns is just sitting there waiting for someone to come flying up behind me. I don't know if they're going to stop or not until they actually do stop. So if this bill is passed, then that gives me a legal avenue where I can move up out of the way, and then I won't have to worry about getting hit. It also has the benefit of reducing congestion for other drivers because motorcycles will move out of the way. Once traffic starts moving, then we simply merge back in, following the existing laws. You just merge back in. You yield to other vehicles. The other vehicles are larger, right? You just yield in behind one of them, merge in, and get out of the way. Again, this is Utah styles lane filtering. It's not California lane splitting. That's all I have, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions? Okay. Seeing none, we have Stacy Baldwin signed in to speak.
Mr. Chairman, can we give a little bit of time to Mayor Wires? He actually ran this bill about 14 years ago as well. He's not signed in on it.
Yep. Yes. Thank you. Is Stacy here to sign in to speak? Okay, Stacy's not. Mayor, we'll have you fill out that slip, but please come up to the podium. State your name for the record and speak to the bill as briefly as possible. Thank you.
My name's Jerry Wires. I'm the mayor of the city of Glendale, Arizona, and I, like you all, served here for 4 terms in the House of Representatives. Actually chaired Transportation Committee in the House of
My
Representatives,
condolences.
along with the MAPS Committee, and then also Rules. I actually ran a very, very, very similar bill to this. I'm an avid motorcyclist. I've ridden across the United States, the Run for the Wall, into Canada, from Florida, New York, across the United States. I'm also a founding member of AMSAF, which is Arizona Motorcycle Safety Foundation, which we actually give scholarships to people to become better riders. One of the things that we had identified years and years ago is putting a bumper sticker on the back of a car telling people to watch out for motorcycles is not sufficient. In fact, what you're doing is you're enticing them to look at the back of a car instead of watching for the motorcycle. We started AMSAF with a good friend of mine, Mick Dane's been very successful. The Office of Highway Safety has been a really incredible partner. Alberto Gutierrez along with that. But with that said, the bill several years ago, he said 14, I couldn't remember exactly how long, but I know it's been a while, actually got to the governor's desk when Jan Brewer was governor, and she vetoed the bill. And she vetoed the bill at the time because there was concerns that it wouldn't be safe. I actually like this bill better. I think it's got a little bit more control, but I can tell you as somebody that has ridden in excess of 100,000 miles, well, probably 4 times that, and across the United States, a board member, a founding member of AMSAF, I think that, and I'm not speaking as the mayor of the city of Glendale, I want everybody to understand it. Speaking as Jerry Wires, a motorcycle rider, actually used to be on the drill team with the Shriners in the parade. So I think I can speak probably as well as anybody on motorcycle riding. I think it's a good idea for this. Now, the one thing I hope everybody understands is this doesn't make you as a motorcycle rider merge lanes. You can do what people have been required by law to do forever. You can stay in your own lane and and be happy with that. I ride a very large bike, and there's a lot of occasions I would not be able to do what they're given the opportunity if the law passes. So because of my bags and everything else, there's times that I would have to sit in traffic like everyone else. But when I ran the bill was the year that the roll-off truck had actually took out several people, and several people were killed and maimed. So, there's a lot of needless deaths that have happened over the last 14 years that didn't have to happen. So I would encourage the committee, give it a good consideration. I think it's got a lot of merit, and I want to thank the chairman for his sponsorship.
Thank you, Mayor. Members, any questions? Senator Steele.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor. I too kind of grew up on the back of my dad's motorcycle. We would go riding all the time. There were times when he would forget that I was on the back. He'd show off for his friends and do a wheelie right through the intersection with me on the back going, yeah, I loved it, but it was a little scary looking back. But my concern with this bill is, I have been in a car and been hit from behind several times over the past few years. So I get the need for this bill. And Mr. Pace said this is your bill, so you can answer this as well. My concern is, just a few years ago, I was on I-10 on my way to Phoenix from Tucson, and I merged left. I looked like I always do. I was careful, and I nearly killed somebody on a motorcycle. Did not know that person was there. Had no clue that person was there. How does this... I don't want anybody to die, and I'm trying to balance everything here. How does this impact people from drivers who don't see a motorcycle, drivers of a car who don't see the motorcycle coming around their left to get into the same lane? How does this put them in more danger, or does this make it better?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to address my thoughts.
Please proceed.
Number one is bad drivers are bad drivers. So if you have somebody doing something illegal and they're already doing something illegal, all of you know passing a law doesn't change that habit. It's the enforcement of the law that changes the habit. Right. And that's something that I think that we've been weak on with a lot of our enforcements. Again, AMSAF, Arizona Motorcycle Safety Foundation, our thought is let's teach people to become better riders, have their head on a swivel to anticipate everything that another driver could do. I'm a pilot and have been for well over 30 years. And I can tell you, I'm much safer, I feel more comfortable flying my airplane than I do riding my motorcycle. Now, that sounds kind of sad to say that, but it's true. At the same time, on a motorcycle, I'm never stopped looking. I never stop anticipating where somebody is going to do something that could hurt me. The thing I like about this is I come up to stop traffic. I have that option, if this passes, I have that option to go to the front of the line and not have to worry about getting rear-ended. There's many times that I wouldn't just because of the size of my motorcycle, I couldn't. But your good riders, your good drivers are always going to do that. Your ones that aren't paying attention. You know, we in Glendale just passed a law a year ago on texting, which I can remember when I was down here at the House of Representatives, we didn't do. You guys came back later and went ahead and did that. I can promise you, I see dozens of people every day texting on their phone. That law didn't change anybody's habits. It's only the enforcement when an officer sees it that's going to change those habits. I would love to see people start maybe attending a little bit more driving school somehow or another. I don't know whatever happened to driving school, but that doesn't seem to happen. But I would never mandate driving school unless somebody's got, a history of bad driving. But back to your question, your good motorcycle riders are going to be good. Why not make it legal to where they can get themselves out of harm's way if they can?
And thank you, Mayor. I might speak to that point. The key.
Would you want me to sit down?
Oh, please proceed if you're okay with that, Mayor. Thank you. Stay on deck. You're coming up next. this, in the language of this specific legislation, the car is stopped. So this, we're not talking splitting a lane during an active merge from from two lanes of traffic that are coming together and someone's trying to split the middle. This is, the lanes are stopped.
Okay.
And so when you have a motorcycle, as a rider myself, if I come up to my house, Gilbert and Brown, there's always an accident on that corner. There's always something going on over there by the high school. Bless those high school kids' hearts, but man, they don't look. And so I come up to that. This gives the rider the option to say, instead of having my tail end facing whoever's going to come barreling down, I can go into the middle. I don't have to go zoom across 8 people to get to the front. I can just come in and sit in the middle of where I want to. The light turns green. Hopefully, the people next to me noticed that there was a motorcycle sitting next to you where no one was moving and I appeared next to you, right? Then we would merge back together as we would continue to go. If the motorcycle gets out in front, they can go zoom across, however it's going to work. But the point is the 2 lanes of traffic are not moving. Now, what was brought up by Mr. Thomas was what happens if I'm a motorcycle going down that, the light turns green as I'm going down, suddenly the 2 lanes of traffic start to go, and what if those 2 lanes of traffic merge into 1 lane at the end of a light, right? So I'm coming through, the lanes start to move, it goes to 1 lane. That's the concern that was brought up by Mr. Thomas. And I've agreed to continue the process to figure out how we can address those concerns. I know that their opposition to the bill is the bill in its entirety, but perhaps there's language we can refine. The key component at the very end of this is it's 45 miles or under a motor street with 2 lanes. A motorcycle can't go more than 15 miles an hour. The traffic must be stopped, and it must be safe. 15 miles or less. So it must be safe. So the component there is a motorcyclist who does this lane filtering at an intersection like we talked about that may not be safe would not be legal, right? So we still have that component in there. The purpose of this is to give safe riders an option. They don't have to, they can. Now in Utah, there was a big component that was done into making sure that people were aware of this new law, making sure people are aware. Riders I know in Utah come to Arizona, well, we don't have the same rules. They're probably still filtering here because they don't know the difference. And now our drivers are going to still see people filtering, especially in some of our border towns. But hopefully that answers your question. It's if somebody who's coming and merging in, this would not affect. This is for stagnant, stopped traffic.
That does help. Thank you.
Senator Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will say I drive Grand a lot, going up and down, and we do have motorcyclists that are filtering. And so there are probably these people from Utah coming down to visit Phoenix.
Yeah.
But one of the things I will say, and for full disclosure, I do not have a motorcycle right now, but I've driven for years in the past. I just haven't bought one since I've gotten down here. And I think one of the things when you're talking about 2 lanes merging in, when you're sitting in a lane and you hear a motorcycle come up past you as it's moving toward the front, you're aware of them. And again, Mayor Wires is correct. You get a full-dressed Harley, they're not going to get up there. You're going to have certain bikes that can fit that distance between 2 cars. But if you are up there, you see that motorcycle, you hear that motorcycle. So if you got 2 lanes that are coming in, those riders don't have to look at the bumper to find out, should I look for a motorcycle? They're aware. So as far as I'm concerned, that actually makes it safer for that motorcyclist because those cars are going, okay, we got a motorcyclist over here. We're going to be blending into one. It makes them much more aware, and I think it produces a much safer environment because we don't want somebody that just, when you're driving, if they don't have a loud motorcycle, if they don't have Jerry's bike revved up or pipes on it that make everybody know from a block away that they're there, they can be, in that sense, deceptive. You're not aware. In a situation like that, though, you're aware of them. I think it makes a much safer environment. So I think on all counts, this is beneficial for safety.
Thank you, Senator Gray. And members, I've committed to continue the conversations with Mr. Thomas and some of our cities who have some concerns on how we implement this and where it goes further. So I will continue that after committee. Senator Rotundo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what would the civil penalty be for a motorcycle that's going over 15 miles an hour during this maneuver?
I would assume that it'd be a standard traffic violation based on how it is written. You were allowed to perform something at 15 miles an hour and you performed it over, it would be speeding.
And that'd be 1 mile, so that would be very minimal.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Seeing none, and we have no other people signed in to speak. Mr. Vice Chair, will you please move Senate Bill 1273?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Senate Bill 1273 with a due pass recommendation.
Members, you've heard that motion. Seeing no further discussion, will the Secretary please call the roll?
Senator Boyer.
Aye.
Senator Gallivan.
Aye.
Senator Gray.
Aye.
Senator Kerr.
Aye.
Senator Marsh.
May I explain my vote?
Please proceed.
I am going to vote yes on this, but I'm not committing to voting yes on the floor. I am respectful of the cities and towns and counties who have some concerns, but Senator, you've said you're going to continue working with them, so for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and vote yes and reserve the right to not vote yes on the floor. So, yes.
Senator Rotundo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I explain my vote?
Please proceed.
So I'm going to vote no for one simple reason, and that's because, for those who signed in against, it says Senator Marsh had said, our chief of police are against it, the counties and the cities, but I'm just doing this. I can see this is going to pass. I just want to put a red flag on it because it's important that the conversation does continue and that needs are addressed, but I can see how the motorcyclists are concerned. I'm in Yuma. We've got a lot of county roads out, in the county that are 45. I can well imagine how this is an important safety issue. It's nice to see you, Mayor. And it'll get my support on the floor if I just want, parties to come together. Thank you. And with that, I vote no.
Senator Still.
I vote aye.
Can I get a glass
Senator
of
Shope.
Aye.
Senator Pace.
Members, thank you for your support on this and those who came to testify, and look forward to our next stakeholder meeting to see where we can take this, and hopefully we can make it safer for riders in Arizona. And with that, I vote aye.
8 ayes, no, 1 nay, and 0 not voting. 8-1-0.
Members, by your vote of 8 ayes, 1 nay, and 0 not voting, you have passed Senate Bill 1273. Thank you. And to give a due pass recommendation. Okay. Thank you for everyone who